say about that. Just really good movies from Toby. Yeah, I'm honestly disappointed at what Disney's kind of doing with the character right now.
I guess we'll see how they're gonna tie that in with Peter Parker. I guess Tom Holland and Avengers and Marvel and all that. How they're gonna tie that in.
Mm-hmm.
After he was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I'm not gonna take over your thing, Tony. Totally not." We'll see how that ties into what they want.
Yeah, and Tony Stark was he was like, oh, so you don't want to be Avengers? Spider-Man's like, no, and he's like, well, I bet you want this Iron Spider suit over here, right? And he's like, okay, so where do I sign up?
My way.
Exactly.
Nothing about that suit.
Wait a minute, Eric. Okay, Eric here probably gave one of the best comments here. Bonesaw is ready. That is hilarious. Yeah, there was a scene in the first Spider-Man where they were in the wrestling match.
Oh yeah.
And the guy's name was Bonesaw. That dude was hilarious, man. That was.
You're going nowhere. I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime.
That whole thing, because you let it as like a little suit, and it's like this little.
And he's like, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for a cage match. And they're locking the cage. I'm just like, bro.
I forgot about that scene.
I love that scene so much. It is great.
That is great.
And it's just like he's just doing all the like classic wrestling moves where he's like grabbing them and slamming them all over the place. He's just like grabbing a chair, grabbing a golf thing. I'm just like, oh man, this is hilarious.
I enjoy this kid's pain.
And he came in with the most ugly looking Spider-Man suit that we've seen, but that was the point.
And then what did he come in? Like Spider Boy or something like that?
Yeah, he came into the guy, and he's like, it's like this actor named Bruce Campbell. Everybody who watches these other movies will know who he is. But he came in, and he's like, "Hey kid, what's your name?" He's like, "My name's the Human Spider." And he's like,
the Human
Spider. That's kind of a crap name. I'm good. Let's call him Spider-Man. Yeah, there we go. Everybody's like, yeah.
It's the Human Spider. Like, he was all offended about it. Like, come on, dude. We all know it sounds better. Like, don't feel sensitive.
Yeah, and he was like, the Human Spider, that's the best you got? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, that sucks. All right, let's do it. Yeah, I don't think it was a wrestling match. I think it was
a circus
show. At that point, it might as well have been. It was so wild and out there. I enjoyed it so much.
With those outfits, it could have been passed for a circus.
It's funny when they show like the other guy was in the ring with them, and he's just like all injured. He's like, "Oh God, my legs!" And then Peter's I'm like, dude, you got super strength. You'll be fine. It's funny how he's like, and the other things, now that we kind of talked about the best stuff about those, I feel like it's only fair that also remember when parodies Man Spider. I remember that. If you don't know that one, that one's just funny. Eric, I remember that one. I'll do a video on that sometime, but I won't do a video on that now. But if he can stop a train, he can beat Bonesaw.
You would think they're pretty much the same thing.
He pretty much did, though. He pretty much knocked him out so easily. I'm just kind of like, wow, that was a lot easier than you thought it would be, Peter. But now that we're let's talk about some of the like hilariously bad moments, just to be a little bit funny about it. Okay, so like, I'm not saying that these are hilariously bad. I'm just saying that they're kind of like
funny. Good to laugh.
Yeah, it's funny to laugh at.
Yeah.
Number one, the scene where Peter first shoots his web out of his wrist, in the lunchroom. I was kind of like, okay, so everybody saw a spider web. How'd they not know it's Peter when he finally becomes Spider-Man swinging around?
It was in front of like 200 people, and then people are like, "Who's this cool guy?" And I'm like,
Yeah, he's pulling the lunch tray with a web, and everybody sees this. I'm just like, so a guy who shoots webs out of his wrist later on, you guys don't know that's Spider-Man?
just people think about it. Put 2 and 2 together, like a person.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, a lot of people in this world, they don't use common logic that often either.
You're right. They don't.
That and also, even though it's the first Spider-Man movie, the Green Goblin suit looked very Power Ranger-ish.
That's what I thought too. When I first saw it, I was like, "Is this like a evil replica or something?" Like,
That is, like, I'll edit this in once I edit this, but there's scenes where he's talking, and then the Green Goblin mouth, like, there's like a black part on the mouth where, you saw it covered. He'll be talking, but his lips aren't moving.
Impressive.
we actually.
Yes, I'll edit them in. You'll see them when they're on my channel, but there are parts when he's talking and you don't see his lips move. Like, there's a part where he's, like, he throws a punch towards him, he grabs it, and he says impressive, and has a close-up on his face. You don't see his lips move at all.
Does he even have lips?
Maybe it's just another mask underneath the mask. His lips
He's
are
ready
just...
for COVID.
He doesn't have the mask of lips underneath the lips. Now to say that, that's like, okay, so why would you guys go through the effort? Then there was this, even though, like I said, I like Mary Jane in those movies, you can definitely describe her as the damsel in distress a lot.
I have such an opinion about her. Okay, I like her for the fact that. Actually, I don't know. Here's the thing. I think she gets into way too much trouble. Okay. Then she only liked Peter Parker when she found out he was Spider-Man. I'm like,
that is so true. That is so true.
He's like, oh my gosh, Spider-Man, Spider-Man, Spider-Man. But it can never. I'm with this guy who's like perfect in every single way. Except I'm going to leave him at the altar because I found out that Spider-Man is actually my best friend, who I didn't like. He told me he loved me. But now I like him because now he's Spider-Man.
She's like, I love you, Spider-Man. I mean, Peter, I love you.
And also, okay, that upside down, like the iconic kiss, right?
You got water nostrils.
Like, if you were any normal girl, you'd be looking at like everyone's lips, like trying to study who is it, like.
Yeah. You don't recognize your best friend who happens to have the same butt chin as Spider-Man?
You would. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, it was just funny when you think about that scene. You're probably thinking Spider-Man's like thinking it back of his head. Oh God, my nostrils are burning from all the water.
Or, oh my gosh, I was thinking about it. As I was watching it, I'm like, his head must be throbbing right now. Like,
well, I was thinking, like, he's like, oh God, the blood's going up to my head. No, okay, give me a second, Mary Jane. Give me a second. Hey, okay, you know what? Let's just kiss regularly. Let me flip upside. Let me flip. Yeah, there we go.
what you would think?
Yeah, he's like, I got like this killer headache. I just like get down for a second. Yeah, all right, now I'm good.
Exactly.
That and some of the CGI too, and like the first movie can look just a little bit dated, just a little bit. Like there's a scene where Peter's first running on the rooftop, and he's discovering his powers, and he's like, this after he beats up the bully, and he's like just running, and he's like jumping, and then before he goes to shoot his web, I'm just like, okay, so there's a scene where he's jumping. I'm just like, oh boy, that looks a little bit old and dated. Hey, how's it going, man? Yeah, he's just jumping. It's like rubber band Peter. Like you see his back, his legs stretch all the way up to his arms. I'm like, that doesn't look right. The CG there doesn't look that great. But for the time, I mean, it was fine. They knew how to hide it, but it was just like, ugh. That night, I did feel kind of bad for like Uncle Ben. Like, okay, so Spider-Man movies seem to have this obsession with old people getting shot. Like, you notice that? Like, Uncle Ben has gotten shot 5 times. All right? Like, look, I'm trying to be like, look, there's the first movie where you see him get shot. Then there's the third movie. You see Peter's thought process of how it went down. You see Uncle Ben get shot there. Then there's the end of Spider-Man 3 where he's talking to Peter and he's like, I accidentally shot your uncle. And you see him get shot again. I'm just like, okay, we see him get shot twice in this movie.
Like,
and then
we are reliving the most horrible scene in the entire series of movies.
Mm-hmm.
Movie.
Exactly. Like, and the Amazing Spider-Man, then they have the whole scene of the origin again where they basically, he's walking down the street, Peter! The guy has a gun, and he's like, he gets shot, and he's like, oh. And I'm just like, we just saw Uncle Ben get shot a 5th time in these movies, man.
I'm sure he's feeling it now.
Every time Spider-Man's in the grocery store, he sees Uncle Ben's rice, and he just starts crying. Sorry. Sorry. This is so scared. And there was like this meme. Maybe I'll send you this meme later, but like I'll edit it in for people to see it. But it was basically Peter Parker. It was like those memes where it's like, who's that Pokemon? And it like has this outline with a question mark. Like they had like this thing where it was like Peter Parker's in the cafeteria eating French fries, and then you see like, who is this Pokemon font? And then it pops up and it says Uncle Ben, and then Peter Parker starts crying. I'm just like, oh my gosh. It's funny, but it's messed up. That's
Who's that Pokemon? It's Uncle Ben.
what I'm saying. Like you can literally, like, as many times as they gotten rid of Uncle Ben in these movies, they could have like making toys out of it by this point.
I know. I'm like, I didn't even think about it until you said it, but yeah, they like relived too many times.
Yeah, like, it's just like, how many times are we going to see the old people get shot? Like, they have an obsession with it at this point. If we see it happen again in a Tom Holland film, I'm going to be absolutely frustrated.
I would not be surprised.
You know what? Yeah. It's like, really, it's almost like the whole Batman Dead Parents thing, where you see his parents get shot. Then we see in the next film, it's like, we're gonna retell the origin. It's just like, oh, it's gonna get shot again. then it's like in the Batman vs Superman, we see the opening scene is his parents getting shot again. I'm like,
freaking like in every time they're like, oh, let's remind you again. Oh, maybe it was this way. Like, make up your
like it doesn't make any sense. I'm like, I don't need to see this again. Just say, hey, they're dead. That's all you need to say. Don't show that again. This is time. Which, by the way, the Andrew Garfield one. Look, like I said, I like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, but his Peter Parker scenes, my gosh, they can get a little bit cringeworthy. Like in this first movie, it wasn't that bad, but in some scenes, like you see him there with Uncle Ben, and when he gets shot, he's like, oh my god, Uncle Ben. He has his lips. I can't do it seriously, but like he has his lips poked out, and he's like, Uncle Ben. It's like, I can't. This is so like.
Uncle Ben. Realize Uncle Ben. Oh god.
I shouldn't be laughing, but the way he has his lips poked out.
It's like one of those most horrible laugh, but like you can't open it.
I can't. Oh my gosh. My face hurts. Just think about this scene is just so hilarious. He's just like sitting there with his hands on him. I'm just like, I should be feeling bad. But he's just like there like, I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like, and afterwards he's just sitting in his room all the time, just on his phone, listening to the message. He's just like, I'm just like, okay. I'm like, all right. We saw the old dude get shot again. Let's just move on to Spider-Man stuff now.
Or we should be like toweling. Okay, again.
Yeah. It's like, okay, well, whatever.
Whatever.
You know, with as much as we've been talking about these movies, I might just make this into a part 2, honestly. Like, I might do a 1 part and then a part 2. Just split them.
Because where I'm at, like, it was like, the sun was pretty up high, and then it
I saw that. I kind of just noticed that.
So now it's really dark. I have, like, these lights right here.
Oh, man. So I just now noticed that.
It's like, ugh.
Wow. Yeah, it got really dark fast.
I promise. I dropped the phone.